Vide Ton Sac, the new podcast by Nightline France, which gives a voice to students. Hi!
Hello!
Welcome to this new episode of Vide Ton Sac. It's our Nightline podcast, and once in a while we do an episode in English because we do have an English line, which we're going to talk about today. And we want to include all students, including English-speaking ones, although I think you also speak French. Maybe
I do, yeah.
Tell us about that too. But yeah, anyways, welcome.
Thank you.
So, hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah, so could you introduce yourself using a fake name, because at Nightline our volunteers are anonymous.
Mm-hmm. So my name is Ellie. I live in Paris. I'm a student, and I'm also a volunteer at Nightline. So I'm half English, half French, which is why I speak both languages. And yeah, I moved here 2 years ago. And I'm
from where?
From next to Geneva in France. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a great time living in Paris, and I'm very glad to be doing a Nightline. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you've been living in Paris for 2 years?
I'm going on my third year now.
Third year?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been volunteering at Nightline?
Almost 2 years. Okay. I think I started my formation in November maybe. And yeah, but because of COVID, I think I got to be an actual volunteer for like 2 months, and then I had to go back to my parents' house, and I couldn't take calls there because of, anonymous reasons and stuff. Mm-hmm. And chats were complicated because of the internet, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I didn't get to be much of a volunteer my first year, but then my second year was a bit easier, and I got to be in the local and stuff, so that was nice. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Do you like it?
I really do like it. Yeah, it's nice. At the beginning, it was very hard because like my first few calls were quite tough. But I never thought about stopping. It wasn't that was going to stop me, but it was quite tough in the beginning. But yeah, I think now I can handle things a bit better. And because I'm like a volunteer for a long time, I can help people as well. And it's nice. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a great feeling to be helping people and stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And do you take, because you speak both languages, so mm-hmm. do you take calls in French and English, or just English? Okay.
So that's a new thing. When I started, there wasn't that. There was only a French line and an English line. So I did my formation in English. I was trained in English and stuff. But then, so last year they started the bilingual people. So there's a few of us that speak English and French that are able to take French and English calls, because there's way less English calls than French calls. There are more and more English calls, but still sometimes we are just waiting around, not doing much, which is great, because it means English people are fine, maybe, or they haven't heard of us.
Or maybe they don't know about Nightline.
Exactly. They haven't heard of us, so they're fine. But yeah, so we wish we would be doing something with that time. So now, if you speak French, you can also take French calls and chats.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's that's cool.
Yeah.
I heard that the English line didn't get as many calls as the French line. I mean, it makes sense because we are in Paris, but still there are many foreign students.
Yeah, exactly. All the foreign students will speak English to us.
Yeah. So maybe if you're listening and you're a foreign student, you can call us, because there will be someone who speaks English to you. So yeah. And so where and what do you study? Like, you can be, you don't have to be specific, but
okay. Well, I study sciences. In Paris. Mm-hmm. I don't think I can say the name of my school, but yeah, I've been studying. So this is my third year. I'm in licence. Mm-hmm. And it's great. It's very interesting, very tiring as well, but very rewarding. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And before we get more into your involvement with Nightline, I just want to ask you, like, what is your definition of mental health? Because it's something that many French people don't know how to define. Mm-hmm. And maybe in English it's easier because it's it's a notion that people know more. Maybe.
Yeah, it's true. So I grew up in France, so of course I agree that there's a lot less. There's a more taboo thing on mental health. It's a lot harder to get to grips with it, and it's a lot more private. So people have a tough time speaking about it. I know that as a French person, I also have a tough time speaking about it to anyone. So yeah, I think mental health is quite complicated. I think it's just, I wouldn't know how to describe it. I would know how it's dealt with, but I wouldn't know how to describe it. It's just, I think a lot of people have a hard time getting to terms with what mental health is if they've never had a mental health problem, or if they've never recognized that they had a mental health problem. Because I think all of us at some point had to deal with something. And a lot of people don't understand that it can be like a normal sickness, you know, like you can, I don't know, I think in work and in school, sometimes people don't realize, like, if you have anxiety, maybe you won't be able to speak in front of people, but people don't want to get to grips with that and will not acknowledge that. And so people that have huge anxiety will have to speak in front of loads of people. People with depression will be forced to come to school, even though, well, sometimes it's just impossible to get out of bed, impossible to shower, impossible to eat. It's just, and yeah, people don't want to come to terms with that. So I think it's really important, especially in France, I think, and for people that are sometimes very hard on themselves, like students, to kind of put it out there to say that, yeah, mental health is something real. It's just like your body health, physical health, and you should treat yourself like you treat your body. You know, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our key message, I think,
exactly,
at Nightline.
exactly.
Yeah. And have you ever dealt with anything, like personally, have you ever felt lonely, or did you feel the need to call a Nightline, for example, before you became a volunteer?
Well, actually, when I was in high school, I did have quite a tough time, but I didn't know Nightline existed, of course. But I do think that if I had something like that, I would have called them, because there's some stuff that you can't tell your friends. There's some stuff that you don't feel comfortable telling them. There's some stuff you wouldn't even be able to tell to someone in front of you, you know? So I think it is really cool that Nightline is anonymous. It's private, and you never get judged when you call them. And I think that's really important for people that are either lonely, or even if they're not lonely, just don't feel like telling their problems to their friends. You know, sometimes that happens, and that's normal. So yeah, like I did deal with stuff, and I think everybody has dealt with stuff. And I think even at some points when I was with Nightline, I think if I wasn't there, I would have, you know, maybe benefited from calling them, because sometimes, once again, like you don't want to talk about it with some friends. But I also think Nightline has helped me with my friends, like kind of help them and listen better. That's something that I really, really benefited from Nightline, the training and stuff, is learning to listen to people, because I realized that I did not know how to listen to people before that. And yeah, that is really important, trying to learn how to listen to people. I think that's the greatest thing that I've learned here.
That was actually my next question, because the listening part, because Nightline, we do listen, but it's not normal listening. It's called active listening. So can you tell us what it is actually?
Again, I'm really bad at describing stuff, but active listening is, you know, just already the other great pillar of Nightline is not giving any advice. You know, it's staying in your place, because we don't have any reason to give advice. You know, like somebody that we don't know is calling us. We have no reason, no right to give any advice. So active listening would just be, I actually don't know how to explain it. It's just sometimes silence is needed for people to kind of get around what they're thinking. And I think a lot of us have a problem with silence, because people think it's awkward. People think, well, when you're alone, when you're in this silence, you're going to think a lot. And sometimes that's good. And people don't want to realize that. So one of the other big things that we learn at Nightline is letting silence, you know, kind of install itself, and it just makes them think. And I've had that so many times, I think at almost every call, like when I just let them speak, and sometimes they don't know what to do, I won't say anything and just let them kind of come back, because it is hard, like talking to a stranger about your problems. It is very hard. And I think, silence is needed to like kind of recollect yourself, think on your own, because you need to think on your own sometimes. You can't have somebody giving you advice all the time, telling you do that, because you're your own person. You're the only one that's going to decide what you're ever going to do.
Yeah, I completely agree about silence, because I don't know, sometimes I'm at home and I hate when it's silence, and I just put on a podcast, or I always have like a YouTube video playing in the background. Like we're always trying to avoid it, and
we shouldn't sometimes.
Like sometimes instead of maybe like scrolling on your phone, you should just sit and think.
Of course.
Yeah, we hate that. Yeah, I think it's human nature that we hate silence.
Yeah, and for once you get that, like it's kind of forced on you. Like I don't force silence on people, but kind of make them realize that it's okay to be silent, and maybe they learn from that after the call and be like, oh, okay, when I did have that silence, I did think, it made me think of things I haven't thought about before. So I think it's good. Like I think you do learn stuff. I learned stuff from my training, and I think people that call also learn stuff from themselves after calling.
Yeah. And so why did you choose to join this association in particular?
So how it happened was that in my university, they have a partnership with Nightline. So I just received an email one day of my university saying that they were looking for volunteers. And I think in the email they said that they actually really needed English volunteers, because when I arrived, we weren't much at all. We were maybe like 5-10. And, for one whole month that, is thin, spreadly, spread thinly, sorry. So I had just gotten to Paris, and I was quite lonely at the beginning, but then I kind of started to go out and stuff. And I thought about how I felt at the beginning of like, oh, I'm alone. I'm in a new city. I don't know anyone and stuff. And I thought that maybe people felt like that as well, but weren't able to get out of that. So I thought that I would like to help them. And I know I like listening to people. I think I'm a good listener, even better now, And I spoke English, so I was like, what's even better, it's going to help even more people. So
Cool. Yeah, so how is it now being a volunteer, like especially the training part? How does it go?
So you have 2 weekends of training. So at first, they signed me up to the French training, even though I was supposed to be English. So I did like half a day of French training, and then they put me in the English when at some point I started to realize that something was wrong. So how it goes is that at the beginning, get a lot of exercises about mental health and about listening. I remember one of the first exercises we did was they just put loads of problems on the board. So like losing your dog, losing a parent, stubbing your toe, wanting to talk about movies, breakups. And they were like, rank these problems. Like if you had all these problems on a night shift, which one would you take first? And I think all human would naturally, like go over the person, like the thing they feel with the most, but what they taught us was that every problem is a problem. Like there's no big problem, there's no small problem. And I get that a lot in Nightline when people are calling me. They're like, oh, I'm sorry to be like disturbing you. Like you probably have more like better stuff to do, people to help and stuff. But I have this, and it's a problem. And even though like, there's no even though, it's just a problem. You want to talk about it. If you feel like you want to talk about it, then that it's a problem. And I'm not going to rank your problem, So that was one of the first things we did. There was stuff like that. Then there was stuff about, the pillars of Nightline. And then, after some time, we started to do, fake calls and fake chats. And that was quite hard actually, even though they weren't real people, real problems. It was quite disturbing to have to, do that. But it was good training. So that's how most of it went. And people were very nice. The trainers were very nice. It was a good experience. It was very interesting. Yeah.
So about this exercise of like ranking problems, you have to realize that it's not about the problem itself. It's about how you feel about it.
Exactly, I was about to say.
So that is what matters most. So if you can feel, some people will handle like a breakup, for example, very well and not be affected by it at all, or like they can just skip through it. And then some others will spend like months just handling it. Of course.
It's just people are so different. You can't choose. You can't choose the problem by interpreting for you, you know? Like if I have a hard time with breakups, I'll choose the person with the breakup before the person that lost a dog. You know, it's just, it's putting your personal judgment on something that doesn't require your personal judgment. It's theirs and theirs only. It's not you to decide.
And anyways, there's no screening. Like if you call us, there's no...
Exactly. You don't have like a person on the phone saying, okay, what's your problem? Let me, list it down and we'll see. Like we'll see about it, you know? That would be crazy.
Volunteers take the calls as they come, right? So
exactly,
calls or chats.
Yeah.
Right? And do you hang out with the other volunteers, especially the English-speaking ones, or do you hang out with the French ones, since you were like both basically?
So we don't really like hang out. Well, tonight there's like a thing with the English line, so I'll go there tonight. We're just like having a get together. I've never really hung out with them. I have like spoken to them like outside of Nightline. You know, I was in the welfare team. So the welfare team is the people that kind of organize things for the volunteers to be sure that they have a nice place where they take calls and stuff. So we were kind of looking at the old building. How to make it cozy, how to make it nice. What would volunteers like? What do volunteers not like, etc. So I would meet with those guys a few times a month, just to talk about it and stuff. I'm not in it anymore. But yeah, so we talked with them. And then the English team had a get-together a few months ago, it's really nice, actually. It is nice. The people are so nice, so interesting, because they come from so many different places, so many different schools, so many different universities. It's really interesting to speak with them. But it's true that we don't like hang out really. But I know there was at my first year there was a lot of parties and stuff, but I'm quite shy, so I didn't go. But I know that they do them the most to integrate everyone. It was just because I think I'm the youngest. I'm one of the youngest people in Nightline. People people that are quite old. I started when I was 18. So I don't think there were any 18-year-olds there at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, but the people are great. The people are so nice. I think the nicest people you'll ever meet are the people in Nightline.
How does it go? Like a typical night at Nightline. How does it go?
So usually we have to arrive at 8:30. The shift starts at 9, but we arrive at 8:30 to set everything up. Speak to people, because you're going to spend like few hours with them, so get to know them, speak to them, maybe eat something, make some tea. So the shift starts at 9, and then usually the French people are assaulted with calls at the beginning. So I didn't talk about the bilingual thing. How it works is that usually before we were 2 English speakers, and so one of them could take a French call, but there was always had to be an English person in standby. So if we're 2 and one English bilingual person is on a French call, I have to, even if a French person calls us, I can't answer. So yeah, the French people are assaulted with calls. They speak, they chat, and the English volunteers just stand around waiting. And we'll get a few chats or a few calls in the shift. It's very silent most of the time, except when there's chats. Like if one person is not in a chat, they'll go make tea for the other people and stuff. But it's mostly quite silent. It's actually quite cozy, the setting, because it's just, it's silent. You can hear the keyboards clacking, and sometimes like we'll just ask if everybody's fine, like, how are you doing? We won't talk about the subject of the chat, but we'll just like, oh, how is it going? You're right, etc. And then after each chat, each call, we take a little break, especially if it's a hard one, we just take a 15-minute break to kind of like get out. We just continue taking the calls, taking the chats, taking breaks, speaking to people. It's it's nice.
And you're not too tired at the end of the shift?
Yeah, so we finish at 2:30. We start at 9. We finish at 2:30. Yes. And so the 2 o'clock to 2:30 is very long, very, very long. And sometimes some people call, like at 2:15. And it's hard. It's hard hanging up on them, having to say, we're closing the line, we're sorry. Because if it's, you could hear if the person is, not doing well. And so it's hard having to hang up with them, but you have to have boundaries as well. Because if you don't put your boundaries at the beginning, then they're just going to call back and cross those boundaries again. So sometimes you have to be quite firm and be like, okay, we're closing. You can call back tomorrow. Have a good night. But it's hard sometimes, It's like we have a time limit for calls and chats. Sometimes it's hard hanging up on them as well, like being like, okay, it's been 2 hours. I have to hang up. You can call back, but you won't be with me. You have a new volunteer who won't know anything. So you have to start all over again. And sometimes the person just doesn't really care. They just continue speaking. So you have to say, okay, like it's done. Have a good night. You can call back. It's not me. So yeah, sometimes it's hard, but yeah.
Yeah, and about the closing time, there are other helplines which are open,
absolutely.
Longer. So usually, I think you guys kind of redirect them to other places, I guess. Okay, and how do you deal with? Because you said your studies were quite demanding. So how do you deal with that? Handling both.
Yeah, this year I was actually quite worried because I had like a very filled timetable, so I did not know how I was going to reconcile Nightline and that. It kind of cooled down. Like I have a few days that I can spare. So usually because I'm in sciences, I have once in a while I have a lab, so I have to go to the lab and stuff, but I don't have it every week. So I can, when I don't have lab in the morning, the night before I can do Nightline, etc. And we only have 3 shifts a week, a month. So usually I can spare three nights in a month, even if it's, Friday and Saturday. It's fine. So yeah.
Okay.
And because we're in the English line, sometimes we don't have chats, so you can do a bit of work while you're there. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And according to you, what's a good reason to call Nightline? And that's a trick question, of course.
That's what we were talking about, right? It's like you can call Nightline if you want to talk about like the June movie. Like if you really liked it and you want to call us and talk about it, we'll be very happy, to speak to you, talk about it. I would love that, actually. You can call about, everything and anything. Like we were saying, there's no little problem, and you don't even need to call about your problems. You can talk about how much you love your boyfriend. You can talk about how much you love your dog. Talk about your new dishwasher. We'll listen to you. We're here for that, and only that.
That's a good reason to call the dishwasher.
Yeah, I think it is. I'd like a dishwasher. I'd be very happy to have a dishwasher.
What's a song or a podcast you'd like to recommend to our listeners? Something you've been listening to recently?
Oh, that's complicated. Because I listen to French rap, so don't know if people like to listen to French rap. I have been listening to soundtracks recently, because I did go to watch June, the movie, and I really like the soundtrack. And I like soundtracks when I study. So I would recommend listening to the June soundtrack and the Interstellar soundtrack, which is amazing. So yeah, it's calming. And if you've watched the movie, it just reminds you of the movie, the different scenes stuff. So it's quite nice. So
was it good, the June movie?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. I have not read the books, so I kind of suck. But my dad is like a fanboy of June. So he talked a bit about it to me. And so I was very excited to go watch it. And I was not disappointed. It's great. It really is. And the images are amazing. Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. And good acting.
It's a good recommendation. And is there anything you'd like to add? Any message to our listeners? Maybe someone who's afraid to call or to become a volunteer? For
the person that would be afraid to call, I think I think you have your reasons. I think like you can be scared, you can be intimidated. It's like it's yourself. You can feel whatever you want. But I think that you'll find that you will not be scared and intimidated when you call us. I think it goes very naturally. We always get people that are like, oh, I was scared to call in the beginning, but it's fine now. I think you have to take the leap. You have to take the jump. And if you take the jump, that means you're ready to talk already, even if you're scared, even if, you're intimidated. If you have taken the jump, that means you're ready to talk. And if you're not ready to talk, it's fine. But
you can also call to just sit in silence. Right?
Yeah, of course, exactly. That's what we're talking about.
Silent callers, yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't want to call, you can also chat. Like sometimes people prefer chatting because it's less daunting. So you can chat as well if you just go on the Nightline site. And for people that would be scared of volunteering, I think you can be scared as well, but I think you'll find again that there's nothing to be scared about. It's just very nice, just nice people, very that will look after you and that will listen to you and answer all your questions, and always be there for you. So I think again, take the jump. If you feel like you want to do it, you should do it. Okay, so yeah,
do it.
Come see me. Come meet me.
Yeah, apply, please.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for the conversation. It was really nice getting to know you.
Yeah.
And I hope we'll have more volunteers thanks to this podcast because we need English teachers.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Thanks for listening. This 4th season is coming to an end, but we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, ask your friends comment ça va vraiment, and feel free to talk about Nightline with your peers. We're here for you. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on our latest content. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nightline France.